right, good evening and welcome to the latest episode of Neck Up Live. My name is Jeff Ramey with my co-host Eugene Collins, and we have the pleasure of having Devin Spriggs as our host tonight, our guest tonight. Devin is a 2011 graduate of Northwest High School, where she was a three-sport athlete, played volleyball, basketball, and softball. And in basketball, she is the number 2 all-time leading scorer on the women's side. Finished her career with 1,036 points. And she went on to Shawnee State to play 4 years of volleyball, where she was a 4-year letterman. She has been on the coaching staff at Shawnee State for 10 seasons and is in her 5th season as the head coach of the Shawnee State Bears volleyball team. So welcome to the show, Devin.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. Welcome.
All right, Devin, I'm going to start with a strong right out of the gate.
Okay.
Tell me what it was like growing up in the Scarberry household. Your dad is a Division I athlete. Your brother played college basketball.
Yeah.
So give us a little bit about your backstory and what it was like growing up as a Scarberry.
A lot of expectations, very high expectations, in the classroom, on the court. Obviously just around the house as well, because we have a lot of land. It could be very intense at times. If you weren't meeting that expectation, you were told about it. But if you were also given that pat on the back. And that started from a very, very young age. But I think that's why we're so close-knit now. Obviously I live right next door. So there must have been something I loved about my childhood to stay there. But no, just very, very high expectations, a great support system, which has been huge as I have entered into the coaching realm. It's very nice to have someone experienced to bounce ideas off of and talk about how to get these kids to play for you and building those relationships and everything. So, it was very, very nice. Just a great support system. And I really I wouldn't have wanted to change anything about my upbringing. So.
Nice. Devin, I also mentioned you played 3 sports in high school.
Yeah.
We're kind of living in a time where we see a lot of specialization.
Yeah.
Very early.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that? How did you think that playing all the sports helped you? And, what's your take on the current culture where kids are specializing, pretty early?
Yeah. I think anybody who knows me knows that softball was kind of my fun sport. I didn't really expect it to go anywhere, but basketball and volleyball, it was very, very intense, hardcore, and had high expectations for both. I got to see different friend groups. I got to see different coaching styles. And what I am seeing is with this specialization, a lot of burnout. With the recruiting process, I have come across phenomenal athletes that just don't want to play in college. They just want to be a kid. And in about a year or two, they, text me or email me and say, do you have a spot on your roster still or whatever? But I was kind of responsible for running a club in the area and encouraging those to play volleyball year round. But unfortunately, I don't think that it is cranking out any better of a volleyball player than if you were to play 3 different sports. I played, like you said, all 3, and then I still played club. So I still was practicing volleyball with softball. I was most of the time doing that work on my own though. And that seemed to help me, but I do worry about the amount of burnout that we are seeing with kids playing 12 months out of the year. And I wonder if it makes you wonder too, if injuries are becoming a thing, a lot of ACLs among young women. So it does make you wonder if that specialization and not using different muscle groups makes a difference in that long-term, physical build.
Yeah, I believe it does.
Yeah.
So Devin, you 10th season on the staff.
Yeah.
5 years as an assistant, and then your 5th year as a head coach. So you made that transition from assistant coach to head coach. What are some of the changes? How did you put your own mark on the program?
I just tried to be very strict with certain expectations. With me being part-time, it makes it more difficult. Teaching 5th grade during the day, and being there after school is a little more challenging. I don't have that time during the day for them to just come to my office and hang out, or me to see them in small groups in a more consistent basis. So I had to really put forth a lot of effort to build relationships with my kids. We put a big emphasis on weightlifting. That wasn't always the case when I was there as a player and as an assistant, but again, it was really, really hard to see that and to do that. But thankfully, Gerald has hired a weightlifting coach and strength and conditioning guy. My kids really, really enjoy him, and they work out 2 days a week in the season. But in the postseason and off season, we're going to amp that up a little bit more. A lot more plyometrics, more cardio, and like higher weightlifting reps, higher weight, all of those things to get them ready for season. So that was one of the biggest things that I tried to do, was amping up that conditioning, because I would have wanted a little bit more of that. And just getting myself out there a little bit more in the community and recruiting tools. There are a lot of emails that come to me and all of that, but just making myself a little bit more present on the social media circuits, because that's how kids recruit now. So I'm constantly on Instagram or Field Level or Sports Recruits, all these different things that kids are putting their product out there, and I want to make sure that they see me watching. So I will say 10 years ago, the way that we did business was very different. But I think no matter who was the head coach there, no matter if I was in a different program, the standards would have changed, and the way that you do things would have been different, just because of how kids are today.
Right.
Devin, how do you balance teaching at Northwest and coaching at Shawnee, and then having a family? How do you balance all of that?
I don't sleep. No, I'm just kidding. It goes back to that support system. I have a husband right now that's downstairs hanging up jerseys from this weekend, because you have to have that. You have to have someone that's willing to help you pack the snack bags, pack the coolers, deal with your late night rants. And, when it comes to practices, I really try to stay focused on Shawnee at Shawnee. Focused at school, like really separating between the two. So there's not a lot of overlapping if it comes to frustrations or anything like that. But it's a big process. It really is. But my mom is super supportive when it comes to travel. Sometimes she makes the road trips with us. Like nice. I said, having a dad that you can call or walk across the driveway to have a conversation with is very, very nice. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to do it without the support system that I have. I cannot imagine doing this by myself. It would be impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So Devin, you purchased the mental performance journals.
Mm-hmm.
You bought them for everyone on your team, and then you reached out and also bought them for your coaching staff. Yes,
we've been doing it with the girls.
Okay. So can you give us a little feedback? How's that been going? And
my kids love it. They really, really enjoy it. And we're doing it a little differently in the sense that we're giving them the independence. Like I made sure that I told them, I don't want to read what you're writing. I want you to be super honest. I want you to be transparent and put everything that you feel and everything that you think into that journal. We're just going to make sure that we are all on the same page and we are getting them completed, because you know how college kids are. Sometimes they don't always do what they're supposed to do. But as a coach, it has helped me. I mean, one of my favorite prompts so far has been, what is your why? Mm-hmm. And, being 5 years in, my why 4 years ago was very different than what my why is now. Mm-hmm. And, sharing that why with my kids, I think was super important. I want to be able to get college kids scholarships to be able to earn a college degree. I want to improve the program each season. With each day, I want to be better. And so I just think that reflection portion has been really, really good for them. Setting routines, like I have my routine, but I am 32. It's hard for college kids to have a routine and pay attention to their physical health, their mental health, what they're eating, how much water they're drinking. all of those things, what time they're going to bed, social media. I think these journals have brought a big light to social media and how much they use it and how negative it can be if they allow it. So I've heard nothing but positive things from my kids. They are really, really happy that we are doing them. And actually we had a disappointing loss and I was so frustrated with them. And honestly, the next day, what the prompt was so perfect. It talked about, what you're going to do next. Like you've experienced disappointment. What's next? And it just came at the perfect time for them to think, okay, we hate that this is the outcome of our game. What am I going to do as an individual to improve the group? And like I said, I think that it's been mind altering for them to have that reflection piece. And it has been for me too, knowing that at the end of the day, I'm going to sit down and look at this and reflect on what my day looks like. And if I was the best teacher I could be, the best coach I could be, the best friend, the best wife or whatever my goal was for that day. But I have no complaints. I love it. I think it's been really, really good for the kids.
Good.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, have you found do you have much discussion on the journal prompts? Have the girls opened up and shared some things and
a little bit? The difficulty with my team dynamic is I have 7 returners and 8 new girls. So it's like a 50-50 split. And some of them are more open with me because they've been with me for 4 years. And some are more open because they've been with me for 3. But my new girls, they're a little bit more comfortable sharing in a 1-to-1 or a small group. And so I give them those opportunities, whether it's after practice or right before. I know my kids and what's the best way for them to open up. And a lot of my leaders will open up in a whole group. I still have some that don't share, and that's okay. And I make it their idea. I don't want to pressure anyone, but I do have some that open up and say, I really loved the journal prompt from yesterday. What'd you guys think about it? And they will have a discussion. And actually they have a team dinner tomorrow. So I'm really hoping that between the video I just sent them to view yesterday for mental toughness, plus that will help.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of drive some conversation for them.
So Devin, go back to your time as a player. Would you have liked to have had this journal? And do you think it would have helped you be better when you played?
I do. I mean, I think back to my 4 years and there were times that I was on track, focused, doing what I needed to do. And then there were times when I was off track and not focused. And, obviously my coach and parents let me know all about it. But I do wish that I had this tool because now as an adult, I love to journal. I love to write. Writing things down helps me get out all the things that I wish I could have said today or the things that I refrain from saying today. But I wish we would have had a piece, a more mental health piece. And I think too, that's just maybe being in the generation that I was in there. It wasn't like a real focus. But also like being the oldest kid, especially the oldest daughter, you kind of have to put some of your feelings aside and do what you got to do. But it kind of helps you come to terms with things, like I wish that I would have had this conversation with my coach when I was playing, or I wish that I would have taken my coaching advice, however many years ago. But I wish there was a bigger mental health piece when I was in college, because I do think that would have made a big difference.
Devin, do you and your girls see in the journal day-to-day situations that are happening within your program?
They haven't. I mean, I see some things, and it's changed my approach, like of how I would address things. My girls haven't said anything specifically, but again, I think that's their relationship with me. I have 4 that if they were seeing it, they would not hesitate to tell me. I do think that this is the first year since I've ever been in a coaching role I haven't had girl drama. And it makes me wonder if this is a link between that. I really do wonder that. I was thinking that yesterday. I'm like, we have about a month left, and this is the first time I haven't had to sit down with
Froze up there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Are you back, Devin? Should be back in a minute.
their own lives.
Okay. Devin, we lost you there for a minute.
Oh.
You kind of froze up. Can you just maybe go back a couple minutes? What were you?
Yeah. I just think that it's probably given them the tools to be able to work through some of those things before it even gets to me. I think it's like, because it is hard to have adult conversations when you're not an adult yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Probably server.
Yeah. Should be back in a second. Hey, Devin, you back?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. No big deal. We'll adjust.
Okay.
So you mentioned the words mental toughness earlier.
Oh, yes.
Do you think that's something that you're born with, innate, or do you think that can be learned? Or maybe a little bit of both?
I'm going to say a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I can obviously refer to me as an example. Like I do think that I'm a very mentally tough individual to be able to juggle this many things, between teaching and coaching and a family. There are things that you have to push through, challenges you have to push through. But both of my parents have instilled that in me. They gave me the skills to be able to be a critical thinker and work through tough situations. And, I told my players that if they were like me, they would never, ever let someone beat them 25-10. They would never accept that. And that's what I'm trying to get these young women specifically to have the mental toughness to push through and determine what they want, how to achieve their goals as an individual and as a group. And so I do think it's a little bit about, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that it's definitely something that can be learned and can be instilled in you and be pushed. But I also think that my environment in which I grew up was a big factor in how mentally tough that I am. And I'm willing to face challenges head on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So.
Devin, how's the season going? If I saw you guys are 10-9, is that correct?
Yeah, 10-9. We've had some really, really great moments, beat some tough teams, done a lot of good things, but then that mental toughness kind of kicks in. This past weekend specifically, we took a set from the number 11 team in the nation, IU Kokomo. They're phenomenal. But then just couldn't get over that barrier those next 3 sets, like ready to push through and have that success right there and take it. And so we've had a couple of moments like that, a couple of games that we just looked phenomenal and everything was just going our way. So we're good to go. And then a couple games that we were just struggling to get over that hump, that emotional hump, that communication, just being able to work together, like all 6 people on the floor having the same goal and moving the same direction. So we've got 9 conference games left, and that's without conference tournament. I would like to see us getting at least 6. 3 of them are going to be big, big challenges, big mental toughness challenges that I'm hoping that a month from now, we don't have these barriers anymore and we're at our peak. But I'd like to see at least 6 of the 9 in the win column for sure.
Nice. And I noticed you have 4 Side County girls on the roster.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they are on the floor pretty consistently for me.
All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
2 of them are seniors, and I'm going to miss them tremendously. Just great leaders. They've been on the floor since they were freshmen. Have really put in the work, amped up their game, hit the weight room, learning how to be positive leaders when it's needed and all of that. And then, really I have quite a few in the neighboring county. I have quite a few from Medina, from that conference up there, Huntington, Ross, and all of that. And looking at a couple more from that area. They just have such talent. And you don't want to walk it. You don't want it walking anywhere else. You want to keep it here.
Right.
So yeah, Scioto County has been good to me when it comes to recruits, picking up the best of the county. And I've got my eye on a couple more. So I'll leave those names, private for now, but I'm hoping to be able to sign those fairly soon and get us on the right track. So.
Well, I know.
Is there very much difference in your play on the road versus home?
Yes, believe it or not, I think we're better on the road. And that's surprising. But I think when you're on the road, there's not that pressure of your family being there, your friends being there, your boyfriends being there, whatever. I think that girls still get nervous about that kind of stuff. And on the road, there's not that additional pressure. Nobody knows you. Maybe your parents are there, but for a lot of them, we do travel well. We have quite a few parents that are very dedicated and go. But I think that does add a little bit of an added pressure, especially if you are, a young girl in college and all the basketball guys and baseball guys roll in there and you've got a crush on one of them. It's a little bit more pressure to play, do your best. But up to this point, we've done really well on the road. And I'd say now it's probably about split when it comes to wins and losses, but we do a pretty good job on the road.
Good.
You mentioned your local players and the 2 seniors. I know one of them is Hayden Walmsley. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I saw Hayden play at a young age, and 8, 9 years old, that she was different.
Oh yeah.
And I think she's had success in track and volleyball, and I think she did it all: basketball, softball, and probably could have played at the collegiate level in any of them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, last year she ended up running track. They picked her back up for high jump, and she went to the national tournament. So there's that.
Wow.
Yeah. She's just so athletic. She's a freak of nature. She really is. Like, I did not have to teach that girl how to jump. She can get up in the air. I had to teach her a little bit more when it came to volleyball IQ. Because again, the league wasn't super strong and she was so powerful compared to everybody else. She could just hit through everybody. And I was like, well, here you're not going to be able to do that. So we're going to have to put a couple more tools in your toolbox. And she has not disappointed. She is a phenomenal athlete. She's a phenomenal person. Fun fact, I coached her in basketball too with Coach France at Northwest for a couple of seasons. So I have a little bit of history with her, but yeah, she's a great talent. And then, Kylie Barney, but now Gifford, she got married. So she's from Wheelersburg and she is just a force at the net right now. Those 2 had phenomenal weekends for us. Kylie has gotten so much faster, so much stronger. And like I said, she's a great volleyball IQ. And so she really puts it to use every single day. So
yeah, she came from a great high school program there at Wheelersburg.
Winning was the culture, right?
Right.
Helps.
Right. So Devin, when you recruit a kid out of high school, obviously they've got a pretty good resume and you recruit them for a reason. Some of them that don't make it, do you think it's typically more physical or more mental?
I don't know. I think it could be a little bit of a mixture of both. I think sometimes one of the biggest barriers that I have to push through with my new kids is you are the best in your program. Like there's a 90% chance you are the best athlete. but here you may not be. So how are you going to handle that? You know, if you went from playing all 6 rotations every single game, but this game you only go in for 1 rotation, how are you going to handle that? So I do think it could be a little bit of both. Like the physical demands are tough. I mean, practices are intense. They're hardworking, lots of conditioning, you know, on top of drills. Then you have the weightlifting factor. Then you have I'm allowed to eat whatever I want in the calf when I go. Mom's not cooking dinner, so I could eat pizza every day if I wanted to. And so that's a big challenge. It's really hard. It's a lot of independence. And then there's the mental toughness factor of, you know, I'm not really playing. I'm not really used to that. You know, coach, what can I do to be on the floor a little bit more? And sometimes there's just kids that are better than them at that moment. And that's really hard to get them to understand. Like, you're not necessarily doing anything wrong, but right now she's just better. She's given us better numbers on the net, or she's given us better defense and serve receive. So I think it could be a combo of both. I think that they rely heavily on one another. I think that if you have one, there's a good chance you could have the other. But I think ultimately that mental is always going to creep in. And that's, you know, what I see every year. I have a lot of kids that struggle with the fact that, you know, they're sitting the bench and they're not used to that. But we just talk about celebrating the little successes. Like even if it's the smallest thing, it's a win in the win column. And so I think it could be a combo of both. It just depends on the kid and their situation.
Devin, how much of the kid being frustrated because they went from playing all the time to not playing as much at your level is coming from home?
Well, and that I think is some of it as well. You know, if we have a really, really good support system, mom and dad understand the sport, understand the overall goal. What they're hearing at home is you got to keep going in and working every single day. If what they're hearing is coach isn't playing you for this reason, or you should be on the floor, it's going to change their relationships with their players or their teammates. It's going to change what their practices look like. So yeah, I think that that's a lot of it. And, you know, I went through easily. I didn't start all 4 years at Shawnee State. I wasn't good enough. And and that's what I tell my girls is, you know, when I was a freshman, I didn't play. When I was a sophomore, I maybe played here and there. I said it wasn't until my junior year that I became even in the consideration to play. I said, but the difference was my dad said, well, you need to go find out what you need to work on and you need to do it. And when I wasn't doing that, on Sundays when I went home, we were talking about what I was going to do to improve and what I was going to do to get on the floor. And so I think that makes a big difference in their outlook and their respect for coaches' decisions as well.
I think some of the travel ball culture creates individualism and kind of this instant gratification, you know, and it's not all bad. It's not all bad, but I do think it does create a mindset. And I know one thing me and Gene say a lot, you got to be willing to work while you wait. And, you know, a lot of athletes aren't willing to do that. But.
Right. Yeah. We're just trying to change, you know, everybody said that everybody has this negative portrayal of what the bench is.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to change is, you know, we want you to be in the game no matter what. Even if, like I always say, you know, when I played basketball my freshman year at Shawnee State, I was not good enough to play, but I knew the scouting report inside and out. That was my job. That's what I could do to contribute. And, you know, on an inbounds play, I have it. I know what they're doing. I know if it's going to be a screen and roll or what it is. But that was my job. And just finding the little things that make you valuable, make you a success. And we talk about body language a lot. You know, even though you're not in the game, if I look down the bench, I'm not going to pick somebody who's sitting there looking miserable. I'm going to pick somebody who's been ready to go.
Right.
So, yeah, changing that culture is difficult. It's taken me a long time, and I'm not even there yet.
You know, when you talked about trying to change the perception of the bench, the thing that popped in my head was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
How many years did he sit behind Brett Favre?
Right.
and he's going to end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback.
So. And I think that a lot of it too is like the social media and the medias. We only see the success stories. Like you very rarely see what happens behind the scenes. What happens with those teammates who aren't in the starting lineup. And I think that creates challenges for, smaller schools, especially like me, where you're trying to get all 15 girls on board at all times.
Devin, you briefly touched on the importance of your why. Do you care to share that with us?
I don't have my notebook with me, but I'll do some of it if that's okay.
Yeah,
that'd be
right.
My why has changed. I always wanted to be a head coach because, well, I feel like it's kind of in the bloodline a little bit. But as I was a player, I wanted to give a good, solid structure. Shawnee State volleyball wasn't always the highest on the list when it came to sports. And with that being said, I have a great support system on campus. Gerald is always, what do you want? What do you want? What do you need? How can I help? But I want to give kids an opportunity to play in college, to get their degree. We always talk about, let this be your Nebraska, let this be your Penn State. Because for some of these kids, NAI is the way to go. So I wanted to give a very, very nice structured program. Kids, letting those parents have a program that they know they're going to be respected, worked hard, very structured and ready to go. But I don't know. I guess my why is just to give girls like me who probably wouldn't have got a shot anywhere unless my club coach vouched for me like Susan Shelton did. So just giving these girls that could be overlooked a shot to be something bigger than a high school athlete.
That's great. Gene, you got anything else to add, or?
It's just, again, great to see another Shawnee alum continue after your playing career. To coach what you do is not easy. Been in your shoes, working somewhere else and coaching, and all those long road trips and budgets, and but the relationships that you have with the kids, it's all worth it. And just appreciate the great work that you continue to do.
I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. I think what you guys are doing is great. It gives coaches like me who probably really didn't know where to start, and helping with mental health and helping with just that extra piece for our athletes, where to start. And you guys made it perfect, a great starting point, and my kids love it. And so keep on doing what you're doing. I can tell you right now that we'll be doing it again next year.
Thank you, Devin. Yeah. Well, Devin, I just want to close. I think some of what you were saying in your why is that you actually care about your athletes beyond the sport. You want them to be great mothers and productive citizens and great teachers, nurses, whatever they choose. Yeah. And that was a part of our goal. We saw that this journal will help them beyond sports. Yeah. And so we just want to say thank you for, buying them and putting them into your program. We appreciate the kind words, and we're loving, the positive feedback. It just makes us feel like all the work we put into it was worthwhile. Yeah, of course. Definitely. No, I think it is important for people to see, specifically women, in a coaching role, in a teaching role. My assistant, she had a baby at the beginning of the season last year in 2023. And I think it's important for our kids to be able to see that you can do all of the things that you want to, as long as you are ready to put in the work. So, but I think what you guys are doing is great. And I hope that more programs and more coaches take this seriously and run with it, because I do think overall it's going to be a game changer. All right. We appreciate that, Devin. No problem. All right, Devin, wish you the best of luck the rest of the season. And we can't thank you enough for joining our show. And if there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. All right. You guys got it. Thanks again.
All right.
Thank you, Devin.
Bye.